family of 3 living in a small home in southern West Virginia. The father, Joe, gets up early every morning to go to work at the local mountaintop removal coal mine. He comes home late in the afternoon, dirty and exhausted, yet quietly triumphant, humbly basking in the glory associated with the amount of work that he's been able to accomplish over the course of the past 9 hours. His wife, Jan, works hard too. She works to ensure that their newborn baby, Sally, has the best quality of life possible. Although this family may seem to represent everything that is right and just with the American way, all is not well in this ostensibly happy home. Jan was recently diagnosed with a seemingly inexplicable case of lung cancer. She doesn't smoke, and she has no history of cancer in her family. Sally, their newborn, was born at the feeble weight of 3 pounds with a heart malformation, and the doctors aren't certain whether or not Sally is going to survive her infancy. Also, their local water supply has been contaminated by the pollutants emanating from the mountaintop removal coal mines where Joe works. This short vignette is indicative of the harm and devastation being caused by mountaintop removal coal mining. This type of mining leads to increased instances of cancer, birth defects, and pollution. Therefore, I suggest that the United States place a conclusive ban on mountaintop removal coal mining. This year, the EPA estimated that 2.7 million acres of forest have been annihilated by mountaintop removal coal mining. This destruction being wrought by this form of mining leads to a massive increase in the contamination and pollution of the atmosphere and waterways surrounding these specific mining sites. Michael Hendricks, a professor of community medicine at West Virginia University, conducted a study with the help of 4 other community medicine professors at West Virginia, in which they found that the rates of cancer in the areas of West Virginia sanctioned for mountaintop removal are 2 times higher than those of the rest of the state. In a similar 2008 study conducted by a different group of community medicine professors at West Virginia University, they found that the mortality rates for lung cancer in the areas of the Appalachians sanctioned for mountaintop removal are 1.5 times higher than those of the rest of the U.S. Melissa Ahern, a professor of pharmacology at Washington State University, conducted a correlational study with the help of fellow pharmacologists, geologists, and community medicine professors, in which they collectively concluded that the rates of birth defects, including but not limited to musculoskeletal problems, cardiovascular issues, and gastrointestinal problems, are about 2 times higher than those of the rest of the U.S. in the areas of the Appalachians sanctioned for mountaintop removal. On top of cancer and birth defects, mountaintop removal is also leading to a profusion of pollution in the areas surrounding these specific mining sites. Ann Blakely and Amy Marshalls, 2 professors of occupational therapy at Western Kentucky University, conducted a qualitative analysis entitled Water Quality, Health, and Human Occupation, in which they found that the inhabitants of Letcher County, Kentucky, a hub for mountaintop removal, are currently struggling to deal with the harsh contaminants found in their local water supply. When these inorganic chemicals are consumed, in the short term it can lead to diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting, and in the long term it can lead to liver disease, kidney disease, and nerve damage. Needless to say, the inhabitants of Letcher County, Kentucky are struggling to stay away from these harsh contaminants found in their local water supply. This is something that the vast majority of the inhabitants of the United States never have to consider. The United States is currently allowing this pernicious practice to persist simply because it leads and supports a somewhat large portion of the jobs in these areas that I've already specified. Despite this fact, the 2011 Congressional Digest states that the United States should not have to choose between the environment, and employment. In 2009, President Obama stated that he would like to amend both the Clean Water Protection Act and the Appalachian Restoration Act in an effort to reduce the occurrence of mountaintop removal. Although these amendments are well intended, I suggest that the United States place a conclusive ban on mountaintop removal, enacting a Mountaintop Removal Ban Act. We also need to petition some of the state legislation that is currently allowing states like West Virginia to bypass much of the national legislation meant to somewhat ameliorate the occurrence and reduce the occurrence of mountaintop removal. I propose the United States also enact a Sustainability Shift Act, which would contain a clause stating that the former miners would be given jobs as sustainability workers, playing a central role in the shift away from coal energy and towards more sustainable energy sources, namely wind energy. In order to jumpstart the implementation of this bill, I propose that we collect a 5 cents per United States citizen severance tax on an annual basis, which would simply ensure that the implementation of this bill went more swimmingly. A report entitled "The Long-Term Benefits of Wind Energy versus Mountaintop Removal," written by Dr. Henson, a professor of environmental science at West Virginia University, in which he was supported by a team of economists who helped him view this issue from a more monetary perspective, concluded that the annual costs associated with operating mountaintop removal coal mines are significantly larger than the annual earnings, whereas the operation of wind farms and windmill turbines is significantly less expensive than the annual earnings. Paul Epstein, a professor of community health at Harvard University, wrote in the 2011 Annals of the New York Science Academy that the life cycle effects of coal cost the United States, on average, over $500 billion per year. So a shift towards more renewable energy sources would save the United States an exorbitant amount of money on an annual basis. Coal provides the U.S. with 20% of its annual energy. So the shift towards reducing mountaintop removal and towards more renewable energy sources would diminish the source of energy astronomically. But again, replacing coal energy with renewable energy sources would significantly increase the sustainability throughout the United States and mitigate the harsh negative consequences associated with mountaintop removal, namely cancer, birth defects, and pollution. Consequently, I suggest that the United States stop this devastating practice dead in its tracks and place a conclusive ban on mountaintop removal. Thank you.